There is a lie society repeats because it sounds moral, because it soothes the anxious and keeps the fragile calm, and because it offers hope without demanding preparation. It is a lie whispered into classrooms, churches and dinner tables, passed down like wisdom when it is really sedation. The lie says this: as long as you are good, everything will work out. Machiavelli would have laughed, not out of cruelty, but out of recognition. Not because morality is useless, but because morality without leverage is suicide dressed up as virtue. History does not punish evil first. It punishes weakness. It punishes irrelevance. It punishes men who mistake being agreeable for being protected. Look closely at the world as it actually operates, not as it is described in speeches. The most ruthless figures are not always the most dangerous. The most dangerous position is not being evil. The most dangerous position is being broke, powerless, unseen, and dependent. Because when you are broke, your morality becomes optional to everyone except you. Your values are admired only in theory. Your principles are tolerated only until they interfere with someone else's agenda. Your voice carries no weight. Your objections dissolve in the air, and your boundaries are treated like suggestions. When survival is threatened, morality collapses faster than pride ever will. This is Machiavelli's darkest truth, the one people avoid because it feels cold. Power decides which sins are forgiven and which mistakes are remembered forever. Picture Patrick Bateman walking through a glass and steel Manhattan office, suit immaculate, posture exact, presence controlled, and aura unreadable. No one questions him, no one interrupts him, not because he is good, but because he appears untouchable. Now contrast that with a man who is broke, stripped of resources, influence, and leverage. His morality is judged. His behavior is monitored. His smallest missteps are magnified and archived. One is feared, the other is disposable. This is not a call to become evil. This is a warning against being naive. This is about understanding how power actually works, not how it is marketed. Poverty is not a virtue, it is a vulnerability. Powerlessness is not purity, it is exposure. And if this truth makes you uncomfortable, good. Discomfort is the first sign that illusion is breaking and clarity is beginning. Let's dive into the hard truth. Number one, poverty removes your right to be interpreted generously. There is a quiet psychological law operating beneath society, one that most people never consciously articulate, but instinctively obey. It is the law of interpretation. When a man possesses power, his actions are interpreted in the best possible light. When a man lacks power, his actions are examined for flaws, judged for motives, and punished for deviation. This is where poverty becomes dangerous, not because of hunger or discomfort alone, but because poverty removes your right to be seen generously. Machiavelli understood that perception precedes morality. A man with resources enters a room and the room assumes competence before he speaks. A man without resources must prove innocence before he is allowed credibility. Watch Patrick Bateman walk through his office tower. He says little, he explains nothing. His silence is not questioned because his presence signals belonging. Now imagine that same silence from a man struggling to survive. The silence becomes suspicious, awkward, interpreted as incompetence or resentment. This is not about virtue, it is about framing. Poverty strips you of framing power. Your mistakes are no longer human errors, they become character defects. Your boundaries are no longer self-respect, they become defiance. Your calm is no longer confidence, it becomes passivity. Machiavelli warned that people do not judge what you are, but what you appear to be capable of doing. Poverty makes you appear incapable, and once that perception forms, every action is filtered through it. This is why being broke is not neutral. It actively reshapes how reality treats you. It places you in a position where morality becomes fragile, because you are constantly defending your right to exist without scrutiny. Number 2, power determines whether silence is strength or weakness. Silence is one of the most misunderstood traits in human behavior, because silence by itself means nothing until power assigns it meaning. Context decides how silence is interpreted, and context is always shaped by position. A powerful man's silence creates tension in the room. It slows the air. People lean forward, fill the gaps with their own assumptions, and attribute intention where none has yet been revealed. Thomas Shelby understands this instinctively. He does not rush to speak because his status gives his silence gravity. It signals control, calculation, and choice. A broke man is not granted that same interpretation. His silence is read as confusion, insecurity, hesitation, or lack of intelligence. This is not cruelty, it is efficiency. Machiavelli observed that humans crave certainty. Power provides certainty. Poverty produces ambiguity. When resources are absent, silence does not suggest mastery. It suggests absence. As a result, the man without power is pressured to explain himself, justify his pauses, and prove competence verbally instead of embodying it. Over time, this dynamic corrodes internal stability. Speech becomes defensive rather than intentional. Words are used to prevent misinterpretation instead of expressing truth. This constant self-correction is psychologically draining. Power, by contrast, grants pacing. It allows stillness without penalty. It allows presence without explanation. This is why poverty is dangerous beyond material lack. It strips a man of rhythm and forces perpetual reaction. And when a man is always reacting, he is no longer directing the course of his own life. Number 3, morality without exit options becomes self-betrayal. True morality requires the ability to leave, because without an exit, morality is not virtue at all, but endurance disguised as principle, a quiet survival strategy masquerading as ethics. Machiavelli understood this with unsettling clarity. He observed that dependency does not merely limit freedom. It slowly corrodes ethics, because when survival is at stake, ideals become flexible and values begin to bend. A man who cannot walk away from a job, a relationship, or a hostile environment does not remain morally pure through strength. He remains because he has no alternative. He tells himself he is being patient, loyal, or principled, when in reality he is being conditioned to accept what diminishes him. This is where poverty becomes spiritually dangerous, not because it makes people cruel or immoral by nature, but because it forces quiet compromises that repeat daily, invisibly, until the self begins to erode. Each concession seems small, almost reasonable, but together they form a pattern of self-betrayal that is hard to reverse. Consider characters like Ryan Gosling's driver. His restraint is powerful, not because he is passive, but because he is not trapped. His silence carries weight because it is chosen, not imposed. He has the capacity to leave, and that capacity gives meaning to his stillness. A man without options does not choose virtue, he tolerates circumstance. And tolerance under pressure does not remain neutral for long. It mutates into resentment, bitterness, or a quiet self-contempt that lingers beneath the surface. Machiavelli warned rulers never to rely on mercy when they lacked strength, because mercy without power invites exploitation. The same law applies inwardly to individuals. Morality unsupported by independence collapses the moment stress intensifies. Over time, the man does not betray himself through dramatic acts of corruption, but through small silences, swallowed objections, and carefully crafted rationalizations that excuse his own disappearance. This is why power is not about dominance over others, nor is it about cruelty or control. True power is the preservation of internal alignment, the ability to act in accordance with one's values because one is free to leave, to refuse, and to stand still without being consumed by fear. Number 4, society punishes weakness faster than immorality. History does not operate on moral timelines. It operates on power dynamics. And this single misunderstanding is where most people lose their footing in the world. Society does not forgive based on intent, effort, or sincerity. It forgives based on perceived value. Those who can still produce, still influence, and still command resources are granted the privilege of reinvention, while those without leverage are frozen in their worst moment and defined by it indefinitely. A wealthy man who collapses is described as layered, misunderstood, or temporarily lost. A broke man who collapses is described as careless, lazy, or fundamentally flawed. The failure is identical, but the interpretation is not, because interpretation follows power, not truth. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago when he observed that people are less offended by cruelty than by incompetence, not because cruelty is virtuous, but because it is predictable. A cruel man follows a logic. An incompetent man introduces chaos. Evil has structure, while weakness destabilizes systems. This is why societies tolerate harsh rulers longer than ineffective ones, and why individuals with visible power are allowed contradictions that others are punished for. Cinema reflects this psychological law with brutal honesty. Bruce Wayne can vanish, violate norms, break laws, and return without explanation because his power creates narrative immunity. His absence is interpreted as strategy, not failure. His silence is read as depth, not confusion. A man without that shield is not afforded ambiguity. His silence becomes suspicion. His mistakes become identity, and his absence becomes abandonment. Poverty, then, is not merely a financial condition. It is a narrative prison. Once labeled, movement becomes invisible. Growth happens internally, but the world refuses to update its perception. You evolve, but you're not seen evolving. That invisibility is dangerous because the human psyche requires recognition to remain stable. When effort goes unseen for too long, despair grows quietly. Bitterness hardens and reckless behavior begins to feel like the only way to force acknowledgement. Power, in contrast, slows judgment. It bends time. It allows mistakes to be reinterpreted as phases rather than verdicts. And time to recalibrate, to recover, to re-emerge on your own terms is one of the most valuable resources a human being can ever possess. Number 5, poverty turns you into a shadow without mystery. There is a difference between being unseen and being invisible, and this distinction decides how the world responds to a man. A mysterious man is unseen by choice. His silence is deliberate. His absence felt even when he's not present. A poor man, however, is unseen by neglect. He does not vanish because he wills it, but because the system no longer registers him as consequential. Machiavelli spoke of appearance not as vanity, but as signaling, an external language through which power, competence, and stability are communicated before a single word is spoken. A man who cannot signal these qualities is treated as background noise. His presence does not alter the room. His voice does not shift outcomes. His absence produces no disturbance. This is what makes poverty existentially dangerous. Not merely financially restrictive, it erodes presence itself. Over time, a man begins to feel ghost-like, moving through institutions, conversations, and opportunities that pass through him without resistance. He is there, yet nothing responds. In Blade Runner 2049, silence carries immense weight, because the character's role is essential to the structure of the world around him. Every pause matters because his existence anchors the narrative. Strip that role away, and the same silence becomes emptiness, no longer tension, but absence. Power functions the same way in real life. Power anchors aura. It gives gravity to stillness, meaning to restraint, and consequence to choice. Without it, even strong internal qualities struggle to manifest externally. Discipline, intelligence, and character remain trapped inside, unable to translate into influence. This creates a deep psychological fracture, the disconnect between who a man knows himself to be and how the world responds to him. The mind searches for explanations, and when reality offers none, it turns inward. A man begins to doubt himself, not because he lacks value, but because the world does not mirror it back to him. Human identity is partially relational. Confidence is reinforced through feedback, not ego. When feedback disappears, self-perception distorts. Confidence erodes, not through failure, but through non-recognition. This is why regaining presence is not about arrogance or display, but about restoring alignment between inner strength and external signal. When presence returns, the world begins to answer again, and silence regains its weight. Number 6, evil can be managed. Weakness cannot. This is one of Machiavelli's most misunderstood observations, because people hear the word power and immediately imagine cruelty, dominance, or moral decay. But Machiavelli was not describing evil. He was describing reality as it functions beneath polite language. People negotiate with power, even immoral power, because power introduces consequences into the equation. Where consequences exist, behavior changes. Where consequences are absent, exploitation becomes effortless. Weakness does not inspire mercy, it invites calculation. Predators do not target the most aggressive individual in the room, they target the most exposed, the one whose resistance carries the least cost. This is not a statement about character. It is a statement about incentives. A man with resources is dangerous, even when he is kind, because his kindness is a choice, not a necessity. There is an unspoken understanding that if boundaries are crossed, there will be repercussions. That understanding alone alters how people treat him. A man without resources, however, is safe to exploit even when he is angry. His anger is noise, not leverage. His refusal carries no cost because he cannot enforce it. His threats dissolve into the air because there is nothing behind them. This is why being broke is not morally neutral. It is not simply a financial condition. It is a relational position. It places you in a posture where others feel entitled to test you, pressure you, and step over lines they would never cross with someone stronger. When you lack leverage, people do not ask for permission. They take chances. Machiavelli did not glorify cruelty or celebrate oppression. He warned against vulnerability disguised as virtue. He understood that power creates friction. Friction slows aggression. It forces hesitation. It makes people think twice before acting on their worst impulses. Poverty removes that friction entirely. It smooths the path for abuse, dismissal, and disrespect. In a world driven by incentives rather than intentions, protection does not come from being good, loud, or morally right. It comes from being consequential, Power does not have to be used to work. It only has to exist. And when it exists, the world behaves differently around you. Number 7, power is not about domination. It is about insulation. The final truth Machiavelli leaves us with is not cynical, and it was never meant to turn men into villains. It is pragmatic, grounded in the cold mechanics of how the world actually operates beneath polite language and moral posturing. Power in its purest form is not about dominating others, humiliating them or bending them to your will. Power is about insulation. It is about building a life so structurally secure that external forces cannot easily dictate your behavior, your ethics, or your identity. A man with resources does not need to rush, beg, manipulate, or compromise himself. He can afford restraint because time is no longer his enemy. He can afford patience because urgency no longer owns his nervous system. He can afford ethics because his survival is not hanging by a thread that can be snapped by a single misstep. This is where the true masterpiece is formed, not in excess, but in stability. Self-sufficiency stabilizes identity. When your basic needs are secured, your mind stops oscillating between fear and desire. You are no longer reactive. You no longer confuse impulses with principles. Morality becomes a conscious choice instead of a luxury you cannot afford. Machiavelli understood that desperation corrodes character faster than temptation ever could. The goal, then, is not to become ruthless, cold, or morally empty. The goal is to become unreachable by desperation. When your needs are secured, your values stop bending under pressure. Your aura stabilizes because it is no longer leaking anxiety. Your presence becomes grounded because it is not seeking permission, approval, or rescue. You move through the world with a measured calm, not as a ghost drifting from validation to validation, but as a man whose shadow carries weight because it is anchored in substance. People sense this without words. They feel it in your silence, your pace, and your refusal to over-explain. Machiavelli's dark truth was never about becoming evil. It was about refusing to remain powerless in a system that punishes vulnerability, disguised as virtue. Because in a world that instinctively respects strength, poverty is not humility. It is exposure.